Welcome students. Today we will be doing chapter 2 from MCB The Overcoat, written by Nikolai Gogol. So Nikolai Gogol was a Russian writer of Ukrainian origin. He is famous for writing several short stories as well as novels and plays. He flourished during the golden era of Russian literature and is considered to be one of his brightest stars. He began writing while still in school and harbored dreams of being a literary success. His first collection of short stories, Evenings on a Farm near Dikanka, was published in 1831. It made with a great success. Some of his other notable works include the novel Taras Bulba and short stories such as Diary of a Madman, The Portrait and the Carriage. So this chapter is the story of Akaky Akakievich, a small red-haired middle-aged Russian counselor. He was a quiet man who silently went about his work in spite of being bullied by his co-workers. So he did not care for anything except his work. Now just have a look at the story. So in a certain department there was a certain official, not a very high one, it must be allowed, short of stature, somewhat pock-marked, having scars or marks, red-haired and short-sighted, with a bald forehead, wrinkled cheeks, and a complexion of the kind known as sanguine. Sanguine means reddish-brown in color. The St. Petersburg climate was responsible for this. So as for his official status, he was what is called a perpetual tutelar counselor. This Akakievich. So perpetual means never ending, and tutelar holding a purely formal position without real power. So as for his perpetual, as is well known, some writers make merry and crack their jokes, obeying the praiseworthy custom of attacking those who cannot bite back. So there were some other persons who used to joke or mock at him. They used to backbite at those people who cannot backbite. His name was Akaky Akakievich. So when and how he entered the department and who appointed him, no one could remember that how he was appointed. Right, so his superiors treated him in coolly despotic fashion. Despotic means associated with a typical of a leader with great power, typical fashion, old fashion. Some sub-chief would thrust a paper under his nose without so much as saying copy or here is a nice interesting affair or anything else agreeable, as is customary amongst well-bred officials. They used to mock at him. And when he took it, looking only at the paper and not observing who handed it to him, he never used to look up and see who used to hand him, or whether he had the right to do so, simply took it and set about copying it. So he was very dedicated towards his work. The young officials laughed at and made fun of him. How did they make fun of him? They strewed bits of paper, small bits of paper, over his head, calling them snow. But Akaky Akakievich answered not a word. He did not answer any more than if there had been no one there besides himself. It even had no effect upon his work. So though the young officials laughed at him and made fun of him, it had no effect upon his work. Amid all these annoyances, he never made a single mistake in a letter. He used to work hard and there was no mistake in a letter. So he was so much dedicated towards his work. But if the joking became really unbearable, if it would become really unbearable for him, Then he would exclaim, "Leave me alone, why do you insult me?" And there was something strange in the words and the voice in which they were uttered. So it would be difficult. So it would be very difficult to find another man like Akaki Akakevich, who lived so entirely for his duties. So it is not enough to say that Akaki labored with zeal. He was very enthusiastic. He labored, he loved his work, and he used to work hard. In his copying, he found a varied and agreeable employment. Outside this copying, it appeared that nothing existed for him. He gave no thought to his clothes. So his undress uniform, casual or informal, so any type of clothes he used to wear. He was not properly dressed, but a sort of rusty, muddy color. The collar was low, so that his neck, in spite of the fact that it was not long, seemed inordinately so as it emerged from it. Inordinately means more than expected or usual. Like the necks of those plaster kittens which wag their heads and are carried about upon the heads of scores of Russian foreigners. So on reaching home, after reaching home, he sat down at once at the table, supped his cabbage soup. He used to sip the cabbage soup up quickly. He rose from the table and copied papers which he had brought home. So after having the cabbage soup, after reaching home, he used to have cabbage soup, and after that again he used to work. The copied papers which he had brought home. If there happened to be none, he took copies for himself, for his own gratifications, pleasure. Means he loved his work so much that after reaching home also, he used to work for his pleasure, for his own satisfaction. Especially if the document was noteworthy, not an account of its style, but of his being addressed to some distinguished person. Having written to his heart's content, he lay down to sleep, smiling at the thought of coming day, of what God might send him to copy on the morrow. Morrow means tomorrow. So, having written to his heart on whatever work he brought home, he used to do it, and he used to sleep, and he thought of the next day, that what type of work God will give in the next day. There exists in St. Petersburg a powerful foe of all who receive a salary of 400 rubles a year or thereabouts. Powerful foe means enemy. So in St. Petersburg there lived a powerful foe of all who receive a salary of 400 rubles or thereabouts. This foe is no other than the northern cold, although it is said to be very healthy. At an hour when the foreheads of even those who occupied exalted positions ache with the cold and tears start to their eyes, the poor tutelar councillors are something quite unprotected. Powerful foe means what here? This foe is none other than the northern cold. Enemy means this is the cold, northern cold. So at an hour when the foreheads of even those who copy exalted ache with cold, they suffer from cold. Tears start to their eyes, the poor tutelar councillors, because they are getting less amount of salary, are sometimes quite unprotected. Their only salvation lies in traversing as quickly as possible in their thin little overcoats 5 or 6 streets, and then warming their feet in the porter's room, and so thawing all their talents and qualifications for official service, which had become frozen on the way. It used to be so cold that they used to live with their thin overcoats only. You must know that Akaki Akakevich overcoat served as an object of ridicule to the officials. The official used to laugh at seeing his coat. They even refused it as the noble name of overcoat and called it a dressing jacket. So instead of calling overcoat, they used to say Akaki's overcoat as a dressing jacket. Seeing how the matter stood, Akaki Akakevich decided that it would be necessary to take the overcoat to Petrovich, the tailor, who lived somewhere on the 4th floor up a dark staircase, and who, in spite of his having but one eye and poke marks all over his face, busied himself with considerable success in repairing the trousers and coats of officials and others. That is to say, when he was sober and not nursing some other scheme in his head. So he thought of taking his overcoat to the tailor Petrovich to get it mended. No, it is impossible to mend it. It is a wretched garment. So when he took the overcoat to Petrovich the tailor to get it mended, what did he say? That it is impossible to mend it because it is a wretched garment. You must have a new overcoat, said the tailor. Now at the word new, all grew dark before Akaki Akakevich's eyes. So everything went blank. Okay, there was darkness. Why? Because he had no money to buy a new overcoat, and everything in the room began to whirl around. A new one, said he, as if still in a dream. Why, I have no money for that. Yes, a new one, said Petrovich with barbarous composure, means unfeeling composure. Well, if it came to a new one, how much would it cost? So he asked Petrovich that how if I buy a new overcoat, how much will it cost? Well, you would have to lay out 150 or more, said Petrovich, and pursed up his lips significantly. 150 rubles for an overcoat, shrieked poor Akaki Akakevich. So, with that small amount of salary, he could not afford to buy the new overcoat. Yes, said Petrovich. Petrovich, please do repair it somehow so that it will serve a little longer. So he begged Petrovich that please to repair so that it could last a little bit longer. No, it would only be a waste of time and money, said Petrovich. And Akaki Akakevich went away after these words, utterly discouraged. He was very much discouraged on hearing Petrovich's words. So Akaki Akakevich was still for mending it, but Petrovich would not hear of it. He refused to mend it, Petrovich, and said, I shall certainly have to make you a new one, and you may depend upon it that I shall do my best. It may be, as the fashion goes, that the collar can be fastened by silver hooks under a flap. Then Akaki Akakevich saw that it was impossible to get along without a new overcoat. So ultimately what he thought, that he needs to buy a new overcoat, Akaki Akakevich. But although he knew that Petrovich would undertake to make a cloak for 80 rubles, still where he to get the 80 rubles from? He was thinking how he would get 80 rubles. He might possibly manage half. Yes, half might be procured, but where was the other half to come from? He was thinking of the money which he had to pay for the overcoat. So then Akaki Akakevich thought and decided that it would be necessary to curtail his ordinary expenses for the space of 1 year at least, to dispense with tea in the evening, to burn no candles, and if there was anything which he must do, to go into his landlady's room and work by her light. So he wanted to curtail his expenses. By how? To dispense with tea in the evening, to burn no candles, and there was anything which is to go into his landlady's room and work by her light. So when he went into the street, he must walk as lightly as he could and as cautiously upon the stones, almost upon tiptoe, in order not to wear his heels down in too short a time. He must give the laundress as little to wash as possible. So what he thought, that when he would go to the street, right, so anyway he must walk as lightly, because upon the stones, almost upon tiptoe, in order not to wear his heels down in too short, because it will become dirty. So the less it will become dirty, he must give the laundress as little to wash as possible. So in this way he wanted to curtail his expenses to save money to buy a new overcoat. So children, this much for today. Next part of the chapter I will be discussing in the next class. So if there is any doubt, do ask me in the live class. Thank you everyone.